Hi everybody! It's been a long time. And it's that day, it's that special day, Pikmin 4 was announced, with a 2023 release date. Can you believe it, guys? Pikmin 4 is real, after almost 9 years of waiting. Nearly 10, I think. We got an official confirmation that Pikmin 4 exists. Wow, that is big. And let's talk about that. We saw the logo today, and the logo's a bit like Pikmin Bloom, and it has the yellow flowers in the 4 configuration. And I believe that this is like a new Pikmin flower, or a power-up. Could be either. Maybe it's like the spicy spray, where you can use like nectar to power Pikmin and make their flowers turn yellow. Or maybe it's something like a new flower color, kind of like the purple, white, and the wing and rock Pikmin have different colors for their flowers. The scene opens up pretty nicely. There's a bunch of flowers, a beautiful garden with these large flowery plants and leaves, a bunch of ferns, and some brickwork. We can see a Spectrolid resting on one of these flowers in the foreground, and it's really nice. Maybe this engine is a combination of Pikmin 3 and new assets. Maybe even it was based on Pikmin 3 Deluxe, which recently saw a Switch release in this game's life cycle, and is now possibly the forerunner to Pikmin 4 to test the waters of how well the game would sell and be received on the Switch, but also to see how the developers would make it work. We don't really know for sure, but it definitely looks like Pikmin 3's engine, or at least Pikmin 3 Deluxe's engine. The Spectrolid is resting on the flower, which is pretty interesting here. It could just be a coincidence, but in the right of the screen we can see something that looks like Sudera cordata, or wood sorrel, or something of the like. These are the similar flowers that appear in the Pikmin 4 logo. Interestingly, the Spectrolid is resting on flowers that resemble that of Pikmin 3's logo. So we have the blue and the purple. It's resting on a dandelion-looking thing, but that's not the point. Or a Cosmo, I can't really tell. I'm not a flower expert. But the blue and the purple were used at different points in development for the Wing and Rock Pikmin, maybe as a nod to where the series used to be. The next scene contains a blink and you'll miss it purple flower, in addition to these Sudera cordata-looking white flowers, upon yellow flowers. And there's some blue in the background. Although this could be a coincidence, these cover all the Pikmin flowers we've seen in the main series game's colors. A beautiful nod, if intentional, to the series' history. We also see a large bench and some garden stuff. The garden stuff on the left resembles the plants used to divide the bingo battle maps, but no guarantee if those are the same. Also, we can see some dwarf bulborbs. Hello, little guys. In the far background. And we can also see this bench is massive, and it looks pretty new. Maybe this is taking place on the Pikmin planet, maybe this is taking place on the Hey Pikmin planet. We don't know. All I do know, though, is if Hey Pikmin is considered canon, that means that they have a whole new, upkept human-influenced world to explore. Time will tell if that's the case. But either way, if this is Piano 404 in some capacity, humans are at least somewhat active, as that bench looks pretty freshly painted, in the past year or so maybe. As the scene continues, we can see the bulborbs walk around, and then it pans to this large clock on a fence, and this bulborb is snoozing away. And then we hear it. A bugle call. Very unique. And that's what we know. The Pikmin gather and become the 4. Wow, it's good to see it. And then become yellow. They glow, too, which makes me think it might be a power-up. We'll see. So, that's what we have to work with. But I'd like to rewind back to the clock scene for a second, just for a moment to discuss one thing. What could this game be about? That clock does not look like a treasure. It's still working. And it's set about, let's say here, 10 a.m.? Maybe 10:09? Or so, almost? It's midday. That clock appears to be accurate, and because it's nailed to the wall, I don't think it's a treasure. Let's talk about this later. But for now, This series looks exciting. Pikmin 4 is real. That Bulborb is snoozing. A sleepy, tired boy. If you kept watching the Direct, you may have noticed we got a singular screenshot. This screenshot shows a captain throwing Pikmin colors at a Bulborb. In this case, the Pikmin colors are red, yellow, and blue. This confirms visually that those Pikmin will be back, of course, as we hoped, and that the flower, bud, and leaf mechanic will return. Also, throwing. It's coming back! Thank goodness. I'd like to pause on this scene for a little bit to analyze what we're seeing. We can see a lot of man-made objects in the background. We can see a walled-off fence, probably one that's found around a home or garden. We can see a gate for the fence. We can see a potted plant that looks healthy. A spigot attached to a water pipe of sorts. And we can see some sort of lattice planters. There's a lot here that's man-made and looks pretty new. Maybe this is, after all, the Pikmin planet. This is just an area that's maybe more inhabited. Maybe we will see human activity. Maybe we'll see humans. I don't know. But I don't think this game is about collecting treasure. Now, that's about it for all we can see. But let's talk about speculation. What I think the game might be is I believe this character we're seeing might be Hokotation. They appear to have somewhat pointed ears, but they could be Kopite. It's hard to tell from this angle and resolution. What's notable is they have a spacesuit that is unlike that we've seen before. It almost resembles the Smash Brothers alternate outfits. But they have white gloves, which is interesting, because the President is the only other character like that, I'm pretty sure. Very cool. But going forward, the Bulborb looks like it's somewhat painted as if it's a different color. Maybe it got a tan. I don't know. Maybe this area is more tropical or gardeny or foresty, and the sunlight here causes these creatures to be a little different in appearance. Don't attack my eye. Good to see you, my old friend. Look at those teethies. They are sharp and pointy. This guy is formidable. I like him. But going back to this scene, there's a few things I'd like to point out. There appears to be some sort of signpost here. I wonder if that's a message left by other explorers, maybe a marker for a cavern, a warning, or maybe it's one of those indicators I put this here to grow that humans place in gardens. It's hard to tell from this resolution. The shadows look fantastic in this scene, but it could just be a result of being a Switch development kit and not an actual hardware screenshot. Only time will tell. Okay, we're getting into the theory part of the video. This is hypothesis, not confirmed information. So if you don't like it, you can leave now, that's fine. If you'd like to stick around, here we go. I believe Pikmin 4 will be about settling on PMF 404. I believe that because in Pikmin 3, a lot of captains mention making the Pikmin planet a vacation spot, coming back here for relaxation and tourism, and promoting these beautiful locations for their own planets to visit as something fun, something nice. They even talk about having a beach day, like a beach day at the beach sometimes, taking off their spacesuits and going for a swim. I would advise against it, of course, because that's a little dangerous on this place, but we can even see a bit of ocean in Pikmin 3. So, here's my hypothesis for what this game is about. I think you're part of a military or colonization encampment, and your goal is to excavate and prepare areas that are safe for explorers and vacationers. So you're tasked with this clock on the wall. That's your regimen. The reason I say military is because we hear a bugle in the beginning that sounds awfully like a military call. Something about that. Give it a listen. And the clock on the wall, and having an explorer, and being in this walled-off garden, makes me think you're preparing this area to be lived in, and you need to make it safe by either terraforming, or tearing down obstacles, or getting rid of dangerous enemies. And maybe there isn't even a day timer. Maybe there's just a clock on the wall, and that's how you have to tell what time it is. Maybe the HUD doesn't tell you, and you're supposed to respond to this clock to tell you how much time you have to do things in, and where you should be at what time. Maybe there's an enemy encampment that will spawn in your base at 9 a.m., and you have to react accordingly by getting the tasks done that you need to do before 9 a.m. Or maybe it's like missions that you have to do in the story that randomly appear and you have to complete them. And you have to make sure your home base is clear, while also finding time to explore further than your regiment. Although we have no information on what this plot could be, I think that the hints we've seen so far, the musical hint we've heard, and the area and single screenshot we've seen could tell us this is a Pikmin game with a little more responsibility. And again, going back to that clock on the wall, I don't think it's a treasure. I think it's an indicator of time. Maybe this game takes things a little more seriously, like Pikmin 1, where you're supposed to do things after a certain number of days. Maybe you need to gather provisions, so a group arriving on day 15 has enough to eat. Maybe you need to gather materials, so you can build a housing complex for a group on day 30. Maybe you even have to choose different landing sites, so let's say a group on day 68 needs to arrive, and they need to have a place to set down their ship, and you have to clear a landing spot. Who knows what we'll see? I sure am excited. Maybe we'll see new Pikmin types, like Cyan Pikmin, or Green Pikmin, or even Orange Pikmin. But getting the colors aside, maybe we'll see Pikmin from the Nintendo Handbook sketches that we've seen before. These sketches show various Pikmin types that did not make the cut for Pikmin 3. Maybe something like the Tiny Pikmin, or the Fuzzy Pikmin, or the Mushroom Hardcap Pikmin, or maybe even the Ghost Pikmin. Or these little slime guys, I like them. There's a lot of options here. There's even the heavy Fuzzy Pikmin, or stuff like this. A parasitic Pikmin that looks like a string bean. Just a stringy little guy. I like them a lot, and I wonder if these Pikmin will return, or something similar, into this game. Because now we have a new Pikmin game, we have options for new Pikmin types. This would also allow them to cross-promote the Pikmin types in Pikmin Bloom. Who knows what kind of cross-promotions between these two games will occur? Now that we have a console Pikmin that's new, and a mobile Pikmin, they could have Pikmin types added to both at the same time. Much like Pokemon Go adds new Pokemon whenever a new console series comes out. Of course, it's only going to be a few types. Maybe we'll only get 2, maybe we'll only get 3, or we can have 100, I don't know. There's no limit. Obviously it won't be 100, but could you imagine if we got 5 new Pikmin types, or 10? The possibilities are endless, and I'm excited to see what Nintendo does with this beautiful franchise. If you want to talk about this stuff on your own, just make your own videos. I'd love to give them a listen, whether it be a social media post, or a video, or a comment. Theorize, hypothesize, make your own conclusions, come up with ideas, dream. I want to see what you guys think of. And in a few months, we'll find out more. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Dabagato, and please, take it easy.